We're going to go over my setup for how I am using specifically Claude Cowork, which is a layer on top of Claude Code. And by the time this comes out, I'm assuming all of the other large language models will have some version of this.
Right.
Watch. But basically, it's like the promise of agents is here. It's in tools like Claude Cowork. And there's a lot of things you have to do right in order to leverage it well. And I want to show my setup. And what I want to show specifically is how it's evolved even in just in 3 weeks. So
GTM AI podcast with Jonathan Moss and Coach K, where you get the latest with AI and GTM today. GTM AI podcast with Jonathan Moss and Coach K.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is I, Jonathan Carford, aka Coach K. This is another episode of the new season of 2026 GTM AI podcast, and I am actually super geeked, if that's the right term, to have my man Steve Cunningham on with me. When I first started my AI journey, I started a company who helped with AI, and I was looking for any education I could around AI besides my own company. And Steve's company was one of the one I went through his program 3 years ago, 3.5, 4. It's been a while now. And so he was one of my, I guess you could say one of my AI mentors along the way, which I'm super grateful and just incredibly humble you'd be willing to come back on and talk to me about this, since you are part of my journey along with this AI guy in India who helped me learn a lot too. So I just want to tell you, first off, thank you for being a part of the journey, and just super excited to have you. How are you?
yeah, I'm doing really well. I don't know if it was 3 or 4 years ago. I did probably 3. And yeah, I'm just super pumped for what you've built and since we last spoke. So great to be here.
Yeah, it's been a blast. So you, obviously, when I joined you, you were running the Simple Academy, and you've had Read It For Me. You've been involved with tons of stuff since. But your launch, by the time this comes out, you would have launched Humans Plus Agents, which I'm super excited to hear about. But before we get into the business side of it, I'd love to know, my audience always loves to know the human behind who the heck we're talking to. So tell me about Steve, who is the non-LinkedIn, non-resume version. Who the heck is Steve, and how'd you get this crazy AI shenanigans?
Yeah, well, I always start off my story by telling everybody I was a lawyer for exactly 1 week, which is a true story. Grew up in just outside of Toronto, Canada. What else can I tell you before the work stuff? Played hockey as a kid, growing up, Canadian boy. Played college hockey, went to school in Maine at Colby College. Did a lawyer thing for 1 week, and then created a marketing agency, did that for about 10 years.
So hang on a second. When you were a lawyer, like, what made you go, I'm going to do marketing? What was the thing that really made you go, this is not for me? What was that?
Well, so the story is, in Canada, when you're in law school, you get a job in the summer, usually between your second and third year. And what you'll usually do is go basically carry the bag of the senior partner and just go shadow them and help them and kind of get a chance to see what it'll all be about. And I realized that if that was going to be my life, they don't tell you this before a lot. Like, my advice to anybody who's thinking of doing a profession is to go do the work. Well, like, that law school was amazing, super intellectually stimulating, all of the good things. But the work of being a lawyer seemed to me at that time to be very mind-numbing. And most of the partners that I met hated their lives. Not all of them. Some of them are engaged in their practice and all that good stuff. But I just decided if that was going to be my life, and I'd rather try to make my own way as an entrepreneur. And that was it. And the story of the 1 week part is, in Canada, there's a year called articling, which is basically like an internship for a year of full lawyer. And as I was finishing up my articling, they asked me to come back as a lawyer. And I said, no, I don't want to. I'm leaving. And they said, well, you're working on this one file. Could you just stick around to finish it?
Finish the file?
So I said, yeah, great. Then I'll have a story to tell for the rest of my life, and I'll be good. So yeah,
that's awesome.
That was why I was a lawyer for exactly 1 week.
And why marketing? Because of all the things you could have done from lawyer, why marketing?
Well, I had read a whole bunch of business books. My family had a very small signage company, and one of the things I wanted to do was to join the family business. So I'd read a whole bunch of marketing books, and the people, or the business book authors who seemed the most interesting to me, were the marketing people, because they were like crazy ideas and off the wall kind of stuff. It's fun, right? So I put no more thought into it than that. It seemed like that kind of work would be fun. I've always been somebody who was creative and liked to create things, and so marketing was like, you get to go to make stuff up all day, and thought it'd be fun. It turns out I didn't have that much fun running a marketing agency, but You got to learn these lessons more than once before they stick.
Well, I can say from being on the other side of it, at some part of your path, like it seems like you seem to have mastered the marketing world. And obviously with AI, you could tell me better than anyone that it's definitely shifted a ton since when you started marketing. So just seeing yourself who has been in the marketing space and then adjusting as you need to and still having success, I think is really cool. So first off, congrats on that. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really cool. So then AI. So where was the transition from marketing to AI? What was the thing? Was it when ChatGPT launched and everyone's going crazy and same thing? What was the aha moment for you?
Yeah, so I ran a company called Read It For Me for about 10 years where I read. This was I always like to joke, and I still think this is true. If I could take a time machine back to November 2022 and destroy all the I would still do it because that job, which allowed me to read books for a living and share what I was learning with people, like as a lifelong learner, that was like the best. I could imagine myself doing that for the rest of my life. I was not super pumped when AI came out, and I realized very quickly that I could get a decent book summary in about 5 minutes, where in the past it would have taken me 8 hours to read the book and make notes and be super detail oriented about it. And I was really good at it. Like it's a weird thing to be the best in the world at, but I was probably the best at reading business books and summarizing them in a really simple, understandable way. And this AI thing almost immediately was as good or better than I was. And so it didn't take me long to figure out that if I could figure out how to do that, everybody could figure out how to do that. And once everybody figured out how to do it, the business would be very easy to replace. AI gobbled that business up pretty quickly. And it wasn't like overnight that like the business tanked, but slowly but surely people started figuring out that they could do whatever they wanted with AI and learn anything that they want with AI, including getting summaries of really good business books. So that was when we basically got into the space. And so I was both embedding AI into our business model to try to ramp up our production. And when we were doing that, a lot of people wanted to know how we were doing it, which I think was around the time when we got connected. So we just launched a program, and that was kind of the jumping off point into all the stuff that we for the last 3 years.
What's fascinating is I think about those times because when I was doing this stuff with you, it was in the spring of 23. So I had, long story short, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I was at a company where the company had bought an AI technology in 21. And that guy built his own model from India. He came on to be a chief AI officer, and I learned all this stuff because I was responsible for training the team. And anyways, he told me about ChatGPT launching out. And then I was like, I got to find other people who are doing stuff in this because I want to make sure I know. Because he wasn't a marketing guy, he was an AI guy. So I found your stuff. And I was like, this is perfect. So that was back then in GPT 3.5. And I remember the prompts we used to make back then versus how you prompt now with like recursive learning and all this other stuff. It's fascinating. But it gave me this foundation of understanding how to learn and seeing you as again, not as an AI guy, but as a marketer, go through and think through how to do things. I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. So it's always been something I've been grateful for. And it's cool to see how it's moved since then in 3 years, So
yeah, it's been transformational over the last 3 years. And I'm sure we'll get into it in the last 3 weeks. It has been like the biggest shift.
Right.
Since the whole thing started, like 0 to 1, no AI to AI was obviously a huge deal. And there's been some evolutions since then that have been really good for business. But in the last 3 weeks, things have started to really take off. And this year is going to be a very exciting year for a lot of people and also very scary for a lot of people.
So you're transitioning from Simple Academy to Human Plus Agents. So tell me about what's the shift, what's happening that's different.
Yeah, we've been working with companies over the last 3 years to help their employees adopt AI. And when we started off, it was like an academy. It's like we're teaching people how to do these things. And more over those last 3 years, it's all been about helping companies generate better business results. So it's not like we're teaching people, we build software in the background, we built the tools to help companies adopt AI. We've got agents that we have built that are being deployed. We do custom agents and stuff. So it just felt like the right time with this big inflection point that we were at to a better expression of who we are. And we think, trying to put a name on it, like what kind of world are we going to be living in? It's the humans plus agents economy, and figuring out how do humans and agents work together is going to be like job number one for companies over the next 2 years. And so we're just trying to position ourselves well. And as a marketing guy, we like to change things up every once in a while.
I love it. I mean, creative. So the one thing out of this call you told me about before, but if someone listens to the end, what can they expect to get out of listening to you, and what you're going to show off today?
We are going to go over my setup for how I am using specifically Claude Cowork, which is a layer on top of Claude Code. And by the time this comes out, I'm assuming all of the other large language models will have some version of this.
Right.
Watch. But basically, it's like the promise of agents is here. It's in tools like Claude Cowork. And there's a lot of things you have to do right in order to leverage it well. And I want to show my setup. And what I want to show specifically is how it's evolved even in just in 3 weeks. So I have a back end system that I've got set up that enables me to do what previously would take me weeks to do. I could get stuff done in 30 minutes. And so it's been transformative for our business. And
Awesome.
hoping some of the things I show here today will help people take a couple of good steps in the right direction.
And if you listen to the end, I'm going to have Steve offer to make sure you guys have a black belt training, which is I obviously, as taking your training, I can totally recommend what you do, but we'll make sure we give people away a coupon and you'll come in, which would be awesome. So make sure you stay all around and we'll make sure Steve gives that away, which would be fun. So I'm excited. Well, want to get into it? Should we show off the goods?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So are you using Claude Cowork, Claude Code?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yes.
Well, before I get into my setup, how do you have it set up? How do you think about setting it up?
Yeah, it's I know setting up could be a broad different terms, but like I started doing Claude Code, and I realized when Claude Cowork came out, because they want to have a more user-friendly version versus an IDE and that kind of stuff, it can be intimidating to a lot of people. So for Claude, I have a section off folder. In my folders, I have a stack of different things based on what we need to do, from like brand to my talking to the transcripts, like depending on what we do. I've even had Claude Cowork do video editing for me and have a training document on how to do video. Anyways, crazy cool things you can do inside of it. So my Claude folder is all trained on or categorized in a way so I can reference those things inside of it and just off to the races and get stuff done really quickly, which is nice. Pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah. So I'll show you my setup.
Yeah, please.
And like I said, I want to walk you through kind of like the evolution of it over the last couple of weeks. So this is Claude Cowork. For those of you who are already using it, you'll know that. If you're not, it's an interface on top of Claude Code that makes it easy for people like me who are non-technical to do
Me too.
what otherwise would be technical things. Like over the holidays, I learned how to use the terminal for the very first time. So I need to learn how to use Claude Code. I'm getting better at using the terminal, and I know that it's actually not that much different than using this, but this for some reason feels comfortable because they're used to it. So anyways, one of the things that most people know by now, I think, is that if you give a really good context to the AI, it can do incredible work. If you give it no context, you get really bad work. What I've done, this is my folder. It's called Operate. And essentially, over the last 3 weeks, I only started using it as soon as it came out. So it's been about 3 weeks.
Yeah, this has only been, this come out be a month, but yeah, this is brand new. So keep going. Sorry.
So my folder structure has evolved quite a bit, even in those 3 weeks. And this is I call it my old structure, but it is like last week. And there was a week before that I didn't really save a snapshot of it. And it was even way more messy than this. And like this, the first week was a disaster. The second week, you can see I'm trying to create some order here. I'm numbering things and so on. This week, though, and one of the things that I always go back to these thinking lenses that I created, and you might remember that from some of the stuff that we did way back when we first started talking. But back in the day, like a few years ago, OpenAI said, here's how AI is going to progress over the next 10 years. We're going to have chatbots, then we're going to have reasoning models.
Yeah, the 5
then
layers.
we're going to have agents, then we're going to have innovators, and then we're going to have organizations. And at that time, like, how the heck is AI going to run an organization? It makes no sense to me. But I believe that they're heading in the right direction, and we'll keep thinking about it in terms of how might this be an organization. So I came back to that thinking last week. What if I just set this up like I'm running a company with agents? And that's basically how I've been thinking about it it feels like months, but it's been about a week. And it's transformed the way I am able to operate every single day. So I have a folder for my executive team. My COO file is basically here. Whenever I start a new task, I say, go read the COO folder and get yourself on board. So I onboard the
By
AI.
the way, if I could pause real fast, I saw another comment. You talked to someone else about doing an HTML format, which I'm curious about because obviously the natural is the .md files, right? So what makes you do HTML versus MD?
I'm glad you asked. So the okay, I'll try not to go down too far of a rabbit hole with this, but the pre-AI, the way us knowledge workers would work would be through things like Microsoft Office, like Word documents and PowerPoints and Excel sheets and so on.
Right.
Those are we don't know any different, right? That's how we started working when we joined the workforce, and those are the tools that we've used ever since. And what most people who are deep in the weeds on AI know is like those file types are really bad for LLMs. They can't read them. And what most people don't know is that there's so much code wrapped up in those things. And so the way I think about it is there's the code layer, which is super messy on those programs. And then there's the presentation layer. It's like what you see on your screen.
Right.
And that's the one side of it. Pre-AI, that's how we work. So Office documents are not good for LLMs. What most software engineers are used to working with Markdown files because that's how they do their work. And software engineers are pushing the limits of how these agents work by far the most. And so it makes sense that they would be saying, we need to use Markdown files for these things. But Markdown files, if you ever open one, is not really good for understanding as a human. It's really hard.
Right.
It's hard to parse. There's no images. We can't see flow diagrams. It just doesn't work for humans. And so what we need is a language that is both good for large language models and is good for human beings. And that language happens to be HTML. And it works everywhere. The agents can read it incredibly well. Maybe slightly slower than Markdown files, but not that much that it makes a difference, especially with context windows getting enormously large and the speed at which they can read these things increasing. That is the file format that works very well for humans, and it works very well for agents. And so we do everything in HTML files, and we believe our point of view is that's going to be the thing that unlocks a whole bunch of stuff for everybody. The cool thing about it is that what the LLMs are incredibly good at creating HTML because the entirety of the internet was created on it, and that's all of that it was trained on. And what it enables everybody to do is being able to build really cool things with AI. And we built a publishing tool to help with this. It's one of the reasons why we're transitioning into humans plus agents. It's like we need to build a world where humans and agents can work well together. One of the easiest things to do is to create a file format that works for both. Just today, actually, it was interesting. I've been on this kick for a while, and I read there's a Twitter post and somebody was talking about how Nano Bananas are really great at creating images. There's all the discussion about PowerPoints are dead. Everything's always dead when you read the social.
Of course it is.
But PowerPoint's always the thing that everybody's been like super excited about is we need to do better PowerPoints. So I read a thread one time where somebody seemed like they were I was like, why don't we just do HTML? I don't get why we need to be building PowerPoints at all. You can just build it right in HTML. And the conversation went from, yeah, I can just do those things in HTML. And then the punchline was, well, then I export it out to PowerPoint. Well, you just did all this work to do it in the exact right way. And then a lot more work to make it worse for humans and for agents. And so just today, I'm going to pull up a couple of tweets here. There's a guy from Anthropic who, and I feel like this is like the first sign of validation of this idea from somebody at the large language model providers. And basically they're obsessed with how we can increase the bandwidth of communication between humans and models, or in our language, humans and agents. And this playground fills, the jump here. Basically what this is, the ability for Claude Code to build HTML files so that humans can understand them. And it goes into your code base and it does diagrams that show you how it's architected and all of those kinds of things. So that to me is like, they are using HTML to do exactly what we're talking about. So that's why, and I guess time will tell if we're right or not, but it's been transformative to the way we do everything in our business, and allows me to go through like just an insane number of design revisions if I'm doing web stuff, like custom proposals. Like everything is way, way easier when you're using HTML.
Yeah.
So that's,
I totally agree.
Side quest on that.
I love it. Keep going. And sorry, and thank you for going down that rabbit hole, because I had to ask you, I saw you comment, because I've used HTML from a design perspective because I can't stand the PowerPoint design tools, like all of them, Gamma. Like Notebook LM's got like cool design, but you can't edit anything. And anyways, I had a team member once on my design team who we were doing some AI animations, and so we were doing more design with HTML. It was so nice. Like, this is awesome. But we did it for more design. What you're doing is more informational, which I love because it kind of combines both worlds. So the thought process is invigorating. So thank you. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. And so like, one of the bottlenecks then it becomes like publishing these things. So like it's very easy to quote unquote publish a PowerPoint, but it's hard for most people to publish a web page. So I'll just show you one more quick thing that's kind of unlocked a whole bunch of stuff for us, which is I just built this really straightforward tool, and this is really ugly because this is our alpha version of it. And it's the version that I use, but we've turned this into a product now. That's part of the Humans Plus Agents platform. But being able to just drag and drop like a file and publish it immediately, and then boom, it's on the internet is like transform it into the workflow. If you can get something from the LLM, does it, you download it, you shift it over, and it's done. And now, especially with Claude Cowork and all the tools that are going to come out because of it, like these files, I can just drag them and I can send a link to people immediately when people on my team and so on. So that's where the whole, like the workflow from beginning to end gets solved with HTML. And it's really easy because it's not that hard to publish a web page.
Right.
It is very hard if you're using a tool like any of the web platforms like WordPress or whatever. Very frustrating, but okay. The side quest is over. Let's go back to how the setup is.
Main thing. Sorry. Okay, got the segue, but keep going. Yeah, I'm with you.
So there are just instructions for agents so that I can go in and I can read it, and I can read it in a very clear manner if I want to review it, but the agent can read it incredibly well. So I fire up the new task and say, go read your instructions. And actually I'll do that now. We're in the folder. Go read HCO file and get yourself onboarded. And I don't know, do you use a dictation tool like Whisper?
Yeah, Whisper.
Whenever I'm typing now, I feel like I'm living in the 1950s or something. Typing that really weird. So if I'm using it, I'm usually using Whisper and I'm just talking to the computer.
Yeah, me too.
Which feels weird for most people to begin with, but it unlocks. It's not just faster. Is you can do freeform conscious thinking on exploring an idea, and you don't have to worry about like when you're typing, you want to get the words out. You even saw me there. If I spell a word wrong, I feel like I want to go fix it, but you don't do that when you're talking. So this onboarded now, so it knows everything that I want it to do, or at least the start of what I want to do. If I went into like a marketing project, it would then go and get itself onboarded into the marketing folder. So that's how I get started, and then we go into a folder. So open up the marketing folder, and every one of these folders or like a functional area of my business has a few different things. Let's see if I can make this like slightly bigger. I don't know if I can.
Oh, it's great. It's okay. Yes, yeah, that's good.
So every one of these folders has advisors in it. So helping me make better decisions more quickly. It has agents in it to help me once I decide what I wanted to do the work better. Context files so that the AI knows exactly so that we're marketing stuff is going to be like our brand voice. Design system, which is really helpful, so you don't have to go back and edit documents. It knows exactly what I want to do. Different templates for like external web stuff, internal web stuff, and so on. And then a project, and this is where I do all my work. So these projects is like if I started a new task, I call it a project because we basically are getting like a 2 to 3 week type of project done in 30 minutes. So in my mind, we're doing projects. So I'll give you an example of a project I did just a couple of days ago. As we were getting ready to launch Humans Plus Agents, got up in the morning to see the first file was at 5:07. So
5:07, yeah.
I go to the gym with my family in the morning. So I get up, I have a coffee. I get an agent going. So I feel a lot of pressure to have my agents working 24/7. So I got to get them working when I go to the gym. Just like I showed you here, I get it started, I would ask it to do something, and here we did a mock-up. And so basically this is me designing the entire interface for this new platform that we're about to launch. And I did about 30 minutes of work total, like my time. And then the AI is working here for hours. And at the end, one of the things that I do to remind myself of like how much work are we getting done is I close off every project with a couple of things. One is I print a receipt for the work that I did. So like if I would have had to get this done externally, how much would this work have cost? And
Yeah.
here are all the line items. It would have been a 2 to 3 week project, 70 man hours, would have cost like $14,000, and I got it done for 30 minutes of my time and with $1 of compute. And so one of the things that this enables you to do is to start to understand like the scope of how much work you can actually get done.
Right.
And if you think in terms of like things that would have taken weeks, I can get done in 30 minutes. You start to think differently about how the work gets done, which rewires how you plan and how you execute. So I treat every day almost like a quarter. I treat every task I'm doing like a project. And at the end of it, I'll show you another one that has a wrap up in it. Let me find one I did today. We're launching another platform called the AI Career Institute, where we train people how to use agents in their specific roles.
Nice.
And it's an education one. And where did it go? There it is. So at the end of it, I do the invoice, but I also do a wrap up. And what this does is I ask the AI at the end of the project, or the task, my language project, basically, make sure you do the invoice. So I got the invoice done, and that's a link to it. What do we do? So what do we get done? What system improvements did we make? So one of the things you'll find when doing these agents is that it'll do something that's not quite right. It went off the rails on an instruction. So I'll always tell it, if I'm in the middle of doing something and find something I don't like, I'll say, go and change that, but also go and change the context documents, because clearly you didn't understand the instruction. Go find out why you didn't understand the instruction and fix that. So it becomes this continuous improvement loop over time. And then, so in this case, we didn't make any system improvements because it was just more like a working session to edit the marketing website for this thing. And I didn't get anything wrong in that session, so there was nothing to fix. However, I also say, give me any system improvements that I didn't think about during this. And so it gives me a whole list of things that we could make better. So at the end of every day, I've got a list of, here are all the things we can do to actually make our company, my company of agents, better for tomorrow morning. And then I have, at the end of the day, the AI go off and work on that. So even overnight, the system is getting better, so that every day it's like a next version of our company. And it almost feels like it's a new quarter, because we've done a whole cycle of projects. We've accomplished a whole bunch of work. We need to regroup, make the whole thing better for the next time. And so I wake up in the morning with a better system than I had when I went to sleep. So it's that done. You see all these projects these are just the last 3 days. I think those are 3 days worth of marketing projects. And so it is, if you get this, and if I went back 2 weeks, you would not see that level of productivity. And I didn't run an A/B test on this, so I don't know if this is the reason why I've been able to be so productive over the last week with this, but thinking of it in terms of a business, and I'm going into a function, I'm gonna do something in that function, and fix something in that function, has been, as I said, transformative to the way we do work. So that is the nickel tour through the system that I'm using, and
I love it.
I'm sure it'll be massively outdated by the time this goes live.
Come out.
But yeah, that's how we're thinking of it right now.
What do you suspect is going to be changing over the next, I don't know, a couple of weeks? Because like I'm with you, like things are dramatically changing very quickly. I'm just curious what you see happening.
Well, I think the big thing is that everything is just getting better, and that if you know what you want, and also you know what good looks like, your life just gets easier and easier. You're literally speaking to a computer, but getting, like I said, weeks worth of work done in minutes, which requires you to know what you want. Because a lot of people really get focused on getting it to do cool stuff, which is great. Like, you need to explore and you need to understand like what it can do and what it can't do. And, so you can have a little fun while you're at it. But pointing out things that are productive is going to be like the most important thing. So making sure you've got goals in there, making sure you're measuring all of the things that the AI is doing. Is it moving the needle on the, simple thing, like the number of minutes people are spending on your web pages, on proposals? That's one of the more interesting ones, because I know a lot of go-to-market folks who are in your audience, the ability to create at scale custom proposals for people and wire it up with Google
Right.
Analytics to know exactly how long they're spending on the proposal and all that kind of stuff is a really interesting use case for it. And we're doing a lot of that with LinkedIn profiles and massively customizing like a super long page you would never even think to try in
Yeah.
the past. Yeah, but in terms of what's going to change, like the technology is getting easier to use,
Yeah.
not harder. So it's a weird thing where most people think as a technology progresses, it gets more and more detailed and technical, but it's actually the reverse.
I have two questions for you, and actually both things I got from you. So one thing was, I remember when we first went through the thing, your spiel was do things better, faster, easier, cheaper with AI. That was the pitch. And
Yeah.
I've realized since then, and obviously that's true, but there's this dividing line between people doing the old way of things, better, faster, easier, cheaper, and then they're doing completely new things, like a whole new world. Like you said, you're thinking in times of, instead of 3 weeks of project, you're thinking about you doing it in a few hours, which changes the velocity and the decision making you make as a result. So, what do you see yourself doing that's new versus just automating things that were before faster? What's the shift for you?
So we're in the middle of trying to figure that out right now. It's like just in the last 3 weeks, I've been able to like I could lay off half of our company tomorrow, and it would have no impact. And I don't, and I'm not going to. It's not the reason why we're doing this, but it's also like they don't have work to do. So the agents are doing the work now. So what do we do? So you have to then go invent new ways of adding value. So we're working through that, and part of adding value becomes like it's a research lab, right? Because you don't know what's valuable until you try it. And using the AI to invent new products and services that you can provide to people that ultimately would enable the engine to keep going is, I think, the biggest thing. And like here's the way we think about it. There are three things that I think are going to be super important in the future that will be like an actual moat. First one is distribution. You need to just create more and more distribution because you see all the things on social. Like you can I coded Instagram overnight. So, well, yeah, you can build anything, but if you have zero people to talk to, it doesn't matter. Like the product is not,
Right.
the distribution is one of the things that is worth spending a lot of time on right now. So that's number one. And then number two, you want to get something actually deployed at a company that gets your hooks into them. Because again, it's not the products that is going to be the biggest thing. It's going to be getting in the door, then finding out what's valuable. It's like you're in perpetual beta or
Yeah.
perpetual lean startups. And I think listening to what people are struggling with as we make this transition into the humans and agents economy is going to be a skill that is, first of all, it's only possible if you have distribution, because you can only get feedback if you have people that are giving you feedback. But because the loop is so tight, it's like someone gives me an idea for like a feature that we can add, I can have it done overnight and deployed in the morning. So
Yeah.
but the way we're thinking about it is like, I don't want to sit around and invent things. I want you to tell me, what do you want? What is going to make your life easier? What are you doing right now that you can't do that if I solved it for you would be valuable? So the frequency at which you can not just ship new things, but ship new things that people have asked for and would pay for is another skill that I think is going to be super valuable. So we're going to spend a lot of time on that, which should create a pipeline of like new stuff for us to do and keep the people busy. Then the last thing is data. So the only thing that's going to be about ever in this humans plus agent economy is going to be the data that you collect while people are doing that work. So if you can figure out the new ways of working for people, like one of the things we're launching with humans plus agents is the ability for people to track, here's how we're doing work today. And is it manual? Is it done with an SOP? Is it done with And as we collect that data, which is useful for the company to know what work is not being done with agents that could be done with agents, so that we can create a pipeline to do that. But that's the data that we will collect, and we will know sooner than most other people how companies are doing that work. And so we will be collecting just a really valuable store of data as well. So that's kind of the way we think about it. I don't know how it all plays out and what we do, but I'm very adamant that we focus on only doing things that people ask for and that add value, in which in our world is, would you pay more for a product if we built it?
Yeah. And again, one thing I admire about you, Steve, is that you're always aware of making sure that things aren't just fluffy, but actually have some coherent impact and value on things. That's always been something I've loved and respected about you. Actually, two questions. One should be an easy one. You talked about the black belts offering. Tell me about that for people who wanted to do that with you.
Yeah, so we've been doing training over the last few years is how we started the work that we're doing. And we found that this one particular training that we do is our AI workflow engineering training, that most people don't really get what AI can do for them in their role until they have an aha moment. And so we realize that that there are no amount of words that we can say to you that will get you to have the aha moment. It has to happen with you using AI, which is something that you went through either before working with us or after. I don't know when you had your magic moment, but there's a moment where you're like, okay, I get it. What we've done is we're making that available to everybody on a trial basis, so you can go in and have that magic moment or not. Like, just find out if it's for you. And that's usually the thing that gets people to really dive in and take the next step. So yeah, that's why I'm making that available to folks. I'm grateful that you're willing to let people know.
Of course. Yeah, happy to. Is there a link you want me to include, or what do I want to make sure I have for the people if they want to do that?
I guess let's just do this live. What do you want the link to be? I'll send it over to you tomorrow, and by the time I will be
just the GTM AI podcast, and we'll make that the extension. Then that way I'll send it over and make sure people get it, which would be great.
Perfect.
So,
all right.
Yeah. And I can tell you, there's been, as far as, so you know what my journey is, I've had a lot of people who've been key moments in my AI journey. Obviously, one was the AI guy who built his own model, and had another buddy who was the seller in there who taught me some things about it. And then you guys were another one, because it was a totally different view from outside the company that was refreshing. So I had these little moments of different people 3 years ago. I was like, ding, and it just sparked something. And then I just took off from there. So definitely, you weren't the first, but you were definitely a key pivotal part of the journey, which I'm, again, just very grateful for. So it's pretty awesome. Last question. You said a quote a lot in the school, and I'll end with this, about Steve Jobs, or not Steve Jobs. No, it was Bezos. Sorry, Jeff Bezos. And when someone said, what's going to change the next 5 years? And he says, it's not the question to ask. The question is ask, what's not going to change? Like, I remember you said that many times. I'm like, I love that question. So now that we're here, what do you tell people? Because of all the things that's changed and all we get is change, what do you feel like is not changing over the next however long, you think?
Yeah, it's a great. I haven't thought about that one in a while. It's a great question. Like, I think people and companies, like if you're in business and you want to do business with other people, that you need to continue to focus on. It's like business 101 type of stuff, like vitamins versus painkillers. Like, people want their problems to go away. And so the understanding of what their problems are and how you can utilize whatever technology is available to you to solve them is how you build a business. And I know it's very cliche to say it in that manner, but that's the thing that will not change. And I think that's the one thing, like, everybody's really worried about. If I am not adding value to a company based on the 20 years of my experience, like, what am I going to do? As well, you for 20 years, you were adding value to a company. You just need to find a new way to add value to a company. And it happens to be way easier to find new ways to add value to a company if you just pay attention to that and not the tools. That's the one thing that everybody gets so caught up in, like Gamma and like, oh, how do we make better PowerPoints? Nobody cares about making better PowerPoints. What they care about is communicating ideas better. And so if you can find a way to do those things for companies, then you're going to be fine. I feel like it's a very unsatisfying answer. I think
I think it's great.
More we can do, but I think it is like, everything's changing, but still at the end of the day, people will pay money for things that will add value to their business. And I usually need to continuously remind myself about this. It's like, how do you help them make more money? And it's not about the tools. It's not about anything other than they probably want to make more money. And how do you help them do that?
Yeah, how do you impact business? Love it, man. Well, Steve, thank you so much for today. Thank you for being a mentor in my journey of AI. Just, again, very grateful for that. And then when this comes out, I'll make sure the link that you'll make for us, which is very good, very kind, will be in the show notes. People can go through there. And just want to tell you, thank you. Appreciate you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. It's been great to see you again.
Yeah, man. You too.
Thanks for listening to the GTM AI podcast. Please like, subscribe, and come back for more.